Oh, I've took a nasty kick to the Trossachs. Ooh. Morning everyone, another early morning start, but this time I'm just leaving the Abbotsford Hotel on the A82 in Dumbarton in Scotland, which is quite a few miles north of Glasgow. Now the reason why I'm just departing Dumbarton in Scotland is because that's where I am. Strangely enough, I rode up here yesterday because I am doing a bit of a ride, as I promised, around some of the nicer parts of Scotland today. I'm only coming out for one night, and I rode up yesterday pretty much directly up the motorway through England. Then I took the Solway coast along the west coast of Scotland and up the Galloway tourist route to where I am now. I was going to video that section of the trip for you, but I've only got one battery on my GoPro, and today hopefully should prove the better day, because I'm riding my Tiger Explorer around the Trossachs, which, the more I say it, sounds like it should be a dirty word, you know, like, oh, I've took a nasty kick to the Trossachs. Ooh. But no, it's I found a ride on a website called Motorcycle Scotland, and the ride is called the Dicky Bow, because I'll put a link to the actual page in the description below. But it's basically the route I take. It's about 200 miles, and it goes through the Trossachs, around Loch Lomond, around that way. But the sort of route you take roughly transcribes the shape of a Dicky Bow. So yeah, hence that is why it is called the Dicky Bow. So anyway, first things first, I did 300 miles yesterday. About 100 miles more, well, about 80 miles more than I needed to do, because I come a scenic way rather than straight up the motorway here where I am now. And I'm really glad I did, because it was quite a nice route up through the Solway coast and along the Galloway tourist route, I have to say. And the roads in Scotland, I have said this before, although possibly not on a video that I've published, now I come to think of it. The roads in Scotland are just vastly superior to the roads in England, both in quality and their lack of road users, for want of a better way. This is what I mean about Scottish roads being better than the ones in England. It's 8 o'clock on a weekday. This is a major trunk road coming out of Glasgow, and there's hardly anyone on it. If this was in England, anywhere remotely near a town, it'd be absolutely chocker. But look at that, and you can tell it doesn't get used that much because the road surface is lovely. Ace. Now I just hope that the weather that I have today was as good as yesterday. It was clear blue skies yesterday, a little bit nippy, but that's cool. I've got all my warm textile stuff on, so I didn't suffer very much because of that. I had to put my hand warmers on for a little bit, but other than that it was a great day. Now you might see here that in my tank bag, which is all I've brought, got overnight stuff in a tank bag, spare t-shirt, socks, underpants, toothbrush et al. The rest was provided by the hotel. But rather than a sat-nav, because I'm not a big lover of sat-navs, if you've watched my last touring series down to Portugal, you know, it's not my most favourite of things. So instead, what I've done is I've written myself a little route guide that I can see in my tank bag. And I was going to follow that. It looks like a fairly straightforward route, to be fair. It all seems to be done on main roads, right? You know, a couple of little B roads, back roads, but mainly it's all A roads. that go through some very remote parts. So rather than sitting looking at a sat-nav the whole way, I'm just going to make a note where my next turn is and just enjoy the scenery, as it should be. We've become too reliant on sat-navs, if you ask me. You know, a person should be able to navigate. It's one of those basic life skills, you know, that everyone should have. And people say, oh, you don't need to navigate anymore, we've got sat-navs. Well, sat-navs can break down, the batteries can run out, the satellites can switch off, the apocalypse could come, who knows? But I know that you give me an ordnance survey map and a compass and I'll find anywhere. That's because I've got the military training. Yes, I'm from a military background. My hands are registered lethal weapons. Haha. Anyway, onwards to Loch Lomond. Don't know if you can see, but through the trees, that's Loch Lomond. There's a car behind me. I've never been to Loch Lomond before. Let's see if I can find a better view. There, that's better. Oh yes. Ooh. That's nice, isn't it? Look at that. Aha. I think this is a photo. I wonder how much it costs to live in a place like this. Look at those cottages. Oh man, I will give one or both of my nuts to live in a place like that. Fantastic. Oh well, onwards. Loch Lomond is several miles behind me now. I'm now turned off onto the A83, going through a little village called Arrochar or whatever, however you wish to pronounce it. It's quite good this, because I spent a lot of time studying the map route, and it's really odd because this is exactly I'm remembering it almost turn for turn, like going around this little bit of a headland here. I remember seeing it on the map and committing it to memory so I'd get me turns right, and here I am, like about 36 hours later, actually riding the ground that I creatively visualised riding whilst planning the route out in my living room. I touched on this a little bit in my last video, my early morning vlog on my R1. I meant to expand on it a little bit there, about this process of creatively visualising things. What I wanted to expand on, look at that, that's fantastic. What I wanted to expand on that point, was that the human brain cannot tell the difference between doing a task and when you imagine doing a task. It has the same effect on the areas of the brain activate as if you're doing that task. That's why I said when I'm not track riding, I creatively visualise how I'm going to ride on track, how I'm going to approach a particular corner, how I'm going to trail brake. And if you repeatedly imagine it over and over in your head, your brain will automatically establish the muscle memory how to do that without you actually ever doing it. It's kind of weird. It's like this route here. I creatively imagined this route knowing that there would be valleys either side of a very calm and flat loch, and here I am. And it is actually pretty much spot on to how I imagined it would be, even though I've never been here before. And the route that I imagined, I know that down here I'm going to have to turn left to come off this main road to do about a 20-mile detour to get back on it. I can see the route in my head. It's because I've imagined doing it. And this is what comes in handy when you navigate without a sat-nav, because you're activating part of your brains that with devices like sat-navs and pretty much all labour-saving or mentally, cognitively thought-saving devices are actually taken away from you. It's mental exercise. If you've ever seen a film called, I think it's called Idiocracy, it's about a fella that gets frozen and wakes up in the future, and basically the world has become stupid because we have labour-saving devices doing everything, all our thinking for us. You know, it's quite it's a funny film. It's also quite prescient as well, because I can see this myself, even in myself. When I've used sat-navs myself, you don't know where you are when you get somewhere because you've not gone through the mental process of taking yourself there, of noting turns and thinking about it. So you lose your spatial awareness, and that's just one tiny little example about how modern life is dumbing us all down. Oh my god, look at this. Not a vehicle in sight, and the road surface is immaculate. It's smooth, it's not worn, there's no potholes. England, you have so much to learn from this. This is marvellous. Just arriving at Inverary. This looks suitably quaint and Scottish. All you lucky people living in a place like this. Yeah. Stay on the A83 a bit longer yet, because I remember seeing this on the map. If I had more time, I'd like to go and visit Inverary Castle, but I am going to ride home today, so it's going to be quite a long day, this. Oh, this is beautiful. Look at this. What a lovely little town. Inverary Jail, the Bank of Scotland. I like how they've kept everything in keeping. You know, I mean, there's a modern restaurant there called the Samphire, but you know, the facade hasn't changed. It's just the bill hoarding has. And as quick as we were entering Inverary, we are leaving Inverary. So not even a town, more like a village. In fact, it probably is a village. If you watch my trip around Portugal on the way home, I remember saying something like, every now and again you have to just take in the moment and remember something and take in the beauty of a particular scene. And just now I was just brought mind to that with seeing the early morning sunlight and shadows on the tops of those mountains there. And it's often said that these cameras don't really capture it that well because it's quite far away and they have such a wide focal angle, but I see things like that and I'll remember that forever. Well, as long as I don't go senile. But that view there, I don't know, it struck something inside of me that it just fills a little part of me that empties over time. And being a country boy at heart, I've got to come to places like this quite often to replenish part of myself that does become depleted by modern life. And for once I've picked the right time to come somewhere as well. Yeah, it's autumn, it's a bit chilly, but the colours of these leaves as they're changing from green to browns, each tree is different, each shade of brown is slightly different. It's just such a rich quilt of colours that, you know, it just makes me so thankful that the human being is able to perceive such a wide range of colours. And I've got Louis Armstrong in my head now singing Wonderful World. Ah, fantastic.